my sister sent an invitation to her private engagement party, my dad said, "Help her. She deserves this." I wired $11,200 for a venue and catering. A week later, I got a text clearly meant for her fiancé. Both bikes paid. Keep the story till Christmas. I nodded and logged into the trust account, adjusted her monthly allowance, and reviewed the lease agreement for the apartment she lived in. At 6:17 a.m., she was outside my door shouting, "You can't do this." I looked at her, and I'm a 33-year-old woman, apparently my family's full-time bank. It started with an envelope, not the usual wedding invite kind, but thick, embossed, and with my sister Laura's name written in gold foil like she was the princess of some tiny European country. Inside, private engagement celebration, close family only, no date for an actual wedding, no mention of location beyond a vague venue, just celebration, and an RSVP card that already had my name filled in. When I called her, she didn't even say hi. "Did you get it?" she asked. "I did. What's this about?" "It's just special. We're keeping it intimate. Dad thinks you'll understand." And right on cue, Dad called me the next day. "Help her," he said in that tone he reserves for when he's already decided what's going to happen. "She deserves this." "She deserves what exactly?" "A proper start. You've always been the generous one. Your sister's fiancé isn't in the best financial position." Translation: wire her money and don't ask questions. So I did, $11,200. Venue, catering, some special touches. 7 days later, my phone lit up with a message. Not to me, clearly for her fiancé, but somehow sent to my number. "Both bikes paid. Keep the story till Christmas." I stared at it. No venue, no catering, just bikes. Expensive ones, if that number matched. I didn't reply. I didn't even confront her. I logged into the trust account our parents set up years ago, the one I'd been quietly managing. Her monthly allowance reduced. I reviewed the lease for her apartment, the one with my name as co-signer. The next morning, 6:17 a.m., she was pounding on my front door like the house was on fire. "You can't do this," she shouted, still in pajamas, hair a mess. I opened the door, coffee in hand, and stepped back to let her in while she kept yelling. "You think you can just cut my allowance like that?" she snapped. "I didn't think," I said. "I did." I took a sip of coffee. "Where's the venue you booked?" She froze for half a second, just enough. "That's none of your business." "It's $11,200 of my business." She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. "It was a gift. You don't get to dictate how I use it." "No, Laura. A gift is what I give at the wedding. This was funding for a specific event that apparently doesn't exist." She muttered something under her breath and stomped into the living room. Dad always called her free-spirited. I called it never facing consequences. Growing up, Laura was the creative one, which meant she could blow through every savings account our parents opened for her. Somehow, it was always my job to make sure she didn't end up homeless. The irony was that I was the one who moved out at 19 and worked 2 jobs to keep my lights on. She was the one who followed her passions. Photography for 6 months, a short-lived Etsy shop, a wellness coaching phase that ended in debt. Every time she got in over her head, Mom would call me. "Your sister's going through a rough patch," which was code for send her money. When she got her first apartment, guess who co-signed? Me. When she couldn't make rent, me again. And when Dad retired early and decided she needed stability, they set up that trust account for her. I was the one actually managing it because they didn't want to stress her out with details. The engagement had been a surprise. She met Mason barely 6 months ago. He was nice enough, in a works seasonal jobs and disappears for weeks kind of way. I figured they'd date for a while before making big moves. Instead, I got an embossed card and a bill. And because I'm apparently the family's walking ATM, Dad had called me before the ink on the invites was dry. "She's finally happy," he'd said. "Don't ruin this by making her worry about money." I didn't even question it at first. $11,200 wasn't pocket change, but I could cover it without wrecking my own plans. I told myself it was for a once-in-a-lifetime event. That text about the bikes changed everything. I'd known Laura was impulsive, but taking money meant for an engagement party and dropping it on high-end bikes wasn't impulsive, it was deliberate. And keep the story till Christmas told me exactly what it was, a cover-up. So I opened the trust account and cut her monthly stipend in half. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make her notice. While I was there, I reviewed the lease agreement I'd signed for her apartment. The renewal date was coming up in 2 months, and legally, I didn't have to keep my name on it. By the time she realized what I'd done, she was outside my place, yelling like the world was ending. "You can't mess with my rent," she said, pacing. It's my signature on your lease, Laura. If I'm paying for your safety net, I get to decide when it's time you stood on your own. This is punishment. No, this is what real life looks like when you don't treat people like cash machines. She pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. I didn't have to guess who she was messaging. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, my phone rang. What did you do to your sister? Dad demanded. No hello. I stopped funding her lies. She told me you're threatening to kick her out of her apartment. If she can afford a $5,000 bike, she can afford rent. There was a long silence. You're being petty, he said finally. Family helps family. Funny how that only works one way. Dad tried his usual guilt routine. How I'd changed since I started earning well. How I forgot the sacrifices they made for me. I didn't bite. The truth was, every time I gave in, Laura pushed further, and now she was trying to push $11,200 worth of further. The problem wasn't just the bikes. It was the pattern. She'd blow money, hide the truth, then play victim when someone called her out. Dad would rush to defend her. Mom would stay out of it, and I'd be left holding the bill. Not this time. Dad kept calling through the morning. I let it ring. By noon, Laura had switched from rage to pleading. Just put it back, she said. We'll talk about the party tonight. There is no party, I answered. There are 2 bikes and a cover story. At 6 p.m., I texted the family group chat. Come by my place at 7 o'clock. Bring Mason. We'll clear this up. Dad replied first. You're not her parent. I typed back. I'm the account holder and the cosigner. They showed up at 7:06. Laura went full drama. Red eyes, shaky breaths, oversized sweater. Mason hovered behind her like a shadow. Dad walked in like a prosecutor. Mom stayed near the door, already shrinking. I put my laptop on the coffee table and opened the trust dashboard. Before anyone speaks, I said, we're going to look at numbers. Dad scoffed. This isn't a courtroom. It's not therapy either, I said. It's math. I clicked the transfer record. $11,200 to Laura's account. Then another window. An invoice from Ridgeway Cycles for $10,998. Same day. 2 line items. Gravel Pro X and Gravel Pro X custom built. Laura swallowed. Mason stared at the floor. I pulled up the text she'd missed. Both bikes paid. Keep the story till Christmas. Dad tried to pivot. Maybe the venue took cash. Maybe, I said, and opened the email search on her address I managed for trust notices. No venue contracts, no deposits, nothing. Stop, I said. This is simple. The money wasn't used for an engagement event. It was used for toys. You lied. Laura shot back. It's our lifestyle. We want to ride together. It's healthy. With my money and a made-up party, I said. Mason finally spoke. We planned to host something small later. The bikes were on sale. Dad jumped on that. See? A misunderstanding. I looked at him. Would you like a misunderstanding with your mortgage? Because that's where this pattern leads. He glared. You don't talk to your father like that. And you don't talk to your daughter like an ATM. Silence. Mom cleared her throat. Maybe we can reset, apologize, move on. No reset, I said. There's restitution and boundaries. I slid a printed page across the table. Here are your options. 1, I said, tapping the page. Return both bikes by Friday. The refund comes back to me. I restore the allowance and keep the lease until renewal. 2, keep the bikes. Sign this repayment plan. $1,100 a month for 10 months. And I step off the lease at renewal. 3, decline. The allowance stays cut and I notify the landlord. I won't extend my guarantee. Laura's voice cracked. You can't pull the lease. I'll get evicted. You have 2 months to qualify on your own, I said. Bring pay stubs or downsize. Dad slammed his palm on the table. You're punishing her. I'm stopping the subsidy of lying. He leaned in. Family helps family. Family doesn't steal and then send victory texts, I said, holding up my phone. Mason shifted. That text wasn't... Finish the sentence, I said. He shut his mouth. Laura tried a new angle. You set me up to fail. You always do. You control the money. I manage a trust your parents asked me to manage because you kept overdrafting, I said. Control is what you call consequences. Dad pointed at the laptop. You enjoyed this. Admit it. What I enjoy is not being played. He softened his tone, the old trick. Lauren, please. For your sister's future, restore the full allowance. We'll make the party happen. It's August, I said. You announced an engagement in May. Where's the ring insurance? Where's the venue? Where's any proof you intended to host anything at all? Laura looked at Mason. He stared at the carpet. I turned the screen to them again. And before you try it, I already called Ridgeway Cycles. No restock fee if returned within 14 days. Today is day 11. Laura snapped, Fine, we'll return them. Happy, I said. Pick option 1. Sign here authorizing the return and the refund to my account. Dad tried to stop her. Don't sign anything. Mason surprised all of us. We should sign. Laura rounded on him. Whose side are you on? The side that doesn't get evicted, he said quietly. She stared at the paper, pen shaking. I'll sign if she apologizes. For what? I asked. For humiliating me. I shook my head. No apology for math. Sign or pick option 2 and pay it back. She scribbled her name, pressing hard enough to tear the page. Great, I said. Return confirmation by Friday at 5. If I don't get it, option 2 kicks in automatically. Dad stood. We're leaving. Before you go, I said, and pulled out a second document. Trust amendment instructions. Lawyer drafted them this afternoon. The monthly allowance now requires receipts over $200. No receipt, no next month. I'll also require a budget for any lump sum requests. Laura scoffed. You can't change the rules. I'm the trustee, I said. I can enforce them. Dad's face went red. Your mother and I will remove you. Not without court, and not before the lease renewal, I said. You want that fight? The filings will include the bikes. Mom whispered, let's go. She tugged Dad's sleeve. He shook her off, then finally followed her to the door. Mason lingered. I'll take the bikes in tomorrow, he said. She'll cool down. Bring the receipts, I replied. Laura stopped in the doorway. I hate you. I know, I said. Friday by 5. They left. The house went quiet. I emailed my lawyer the signed page and scheduled a reminder for Friday at 4:30. Then I drafted the landlord notice, saving it to send if they missed the deadline. Friday at 4:58 p.m., my phone buzzed. 2 PDFs, return receipts, full refund pending. A third came at 5:07, a paragraph from Laura, all caps, about how I'd ruined her engagement vibe and embarrassed her in front of Dad. No apology, no responsibility, just noise. I restored her allowance to the new reduced level and sent the budget template. Dad called 30 seconds later. You happy now? I'm done being your cleanup crew, I said. This isn't over. For me, it is. He tried one more angle. Your sister won't forget this. Good, I said. Maybe she'll remember it the next time she reaches for someone else's wallet. I hung up, set my phone face down, and finally exhaled. The line had been drawn. The performance was over. Consequences had entered the chat. The refund hit my account on Monday morning. I didn't text anyone. I forwarded the receipt to Laura and scheduled the lease reminder for the 1st of next month. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I turned off my phone for an hour and took a quiet walk. No calls, no urgent requests, just air. By lunch, Dad broke the silence. This stunt cost your sister her dignity, he wrote. I replied, actions have receipts. He sent a thumbs down, classic. The next week was weirdly calm. Laura stopped spamming the group chat with ring selfies. Mason unfollowed me on everything. Mom sent a single message. Let's not make it worse. I didn't answer. I wasn't making anything. I was letting gravity do its job. Small things in my life improved fast. I slept. I ate meals that weren't grabbed between favors. I blocked 2 numbers I should have blocked years ago. A cousin who always needed bridge money and a family friend who knew a sure investment. I opened my calendar and saw white space. I didn't realize how loud my life had been until it got quiet. On Friday, my landlord emailed about a 2-bedroom unit opening in my building. Cheaper than market because the owner liked tenants who pay on time. A year ago, I would have offered it to Laura. This time, I sent it to a coworker who'd been grinding without help. She signed the next day and brought me muffins. Being useful felt better than being used. Mom called that Sunday. Your father is hurt, she said. He thinks you humiliated Laura. Laura humiliated herself, I said. I held up a mirror. She sighed. You could have been gentler. She could have been honest. 2 days later, Mason reached out. Return went through, he said. We're regrouping. Good. She's embarrassed. So am I, he wrote. But I'll live. Then he added, I didn't know about the lease. You do now, I said. 2 months. I went back to my routine. Work, gym, sleep. I met a friend for coffee without checking if Laura needed a rescue ride. I dropped a small donation to a local youth program and didn't tell a soul. I started a simple budget for me, not for other adults. Laura tried one more tactic, the pity tour. She called our aunt and spun a story about financial abuse. The aunt texted me a novel. I answered with 4 screenshots. The invite, the transfer, the bike invoice, the return receipt. She replied with a single word. Yikes. Then nothing. I watched the tour fizzle out as screenshots traveled faster than Laura's spin. Mid-month, Dad proposed a reset dinner. I picked a neutral diner. He arrived ready to argue, but Mom got there first. Thank you for making her return them, Mom said quietly. Dad glared. We don't thank her for shaming family. She wasn't shamed, I said. She was stopped. She's your sister. She's also 30 and lying. He opened his mouth, closed it, then poked at his menu like it had insulted him. When the server left, I laid out what would not change. I won't restore the old allowance. I won't renew the guarantee. I won't fund events that don't exist. If she wants help, it's proof first, budget second, and repayment if it's not basic survival. Non-negotiable. Mom nodded. Dad called it cold. Call it adult, I said. 2 weeks later, Laura texted at 11:54 p.m. Emergency rent short. Help now. Send pay stubs and your plan for next month, I replied. She sent 10 eye-roll emojis and a photo of a half-written sad story for her social media. I didn't bite. At 12:18 a.m., Mason messaged pay stubs, a shift schedule, and a screenshot of a deposit for a cheaper place they'd applied for. We can cover most, he wrote. Short $250. I sent $250 with a note. This is the model. Keep it, he answered. Understood. Laura didn't say thanks. I didn't need it. Word spread that I wasn't the family faucet anymore. People adjusted. One cousin found a roommate. My uncle finally sold the truck he'd been holding for the right price. Dad complained less when it stopped working. Even Mom started asking Laura, "What's your plan?" and let the silence hang. That was new. My own days kept opening up. I took my bike in for a tune-up, a modest commuter I'd bought years ago. The mechanic asked if I wanted to upgrade components. No, I said. I'm good with honest parts that last. He smiled like he got it. On the last week before lease renewal, Laura called at noon, her voice steady for once. I got approved for the smaller apartment, she said. Good. It's not glamorous. Neither is paying someone else's rent. Silence. Mason's picking up extra shifts, she added. Great. We'll manage. I know. She didn't ask me to stay on the lease. She didn't thank me. She didn't hang up angry either. Progress is sometimes dull. Dad tried one last push the night before her move. Your sister will remember who stood by, he warned. I stood by truth, I said. Cold, he repeated. Clear, I answered, and that was the end of it. Move-out day. Mason texted a photo of a tiny living room with 2 camp chairs and a plant on a crate. Day 1, he wrote. Looks honest, I replied. He sent a thumbs up. That evening, I met friends for dinner. No one asked me for a wire, a ride, or a signature. We joked about dumb shows and split the bill evenly. On the way home, I realized my shoulders had dropped. The constant flinch was gone. At 9:12 p.m., a number I didn't recognize texted, Hi, I'm Mason's sister. He told me what you did. Thank you. He's been trying to grow up for years. I stared at the message for a long time, then wrote back, Tell him to keep going. Before bed, I opened the trust portal and set one last automation. If receipts aren't uploaded by the 28th, the next month pauses. No drama, no speeches, just rules that run whether I check my phone or not. I slept like a rock. In the morning, I brewed coffee and went for another walk. It wasn't a victory lap. It was just a quiet loop around the block where nobody owned me. My life wasn't loud, but it finally felt like mine. I used to think family meant you had to accept whatever treatment they gave you, no matter how unfair. That's how I was raised. Be the helper. Be the reliable one. Be the one who never complains. But that morning, when my sister stood on my doorstep screaming that I couldn't cut her off, I realized I'd finally stopped buying the narrative. She had choices. She chose to lie about the engagement party expenses. She chose to buy those bikes instead of paying for the venue and catering she told me about. She chose to live in an apartment I paid for while treating me like a walking bank account. I didn't ruin her life. I just stopped financing her bad decisions. The fallout was predictable. My father called 3 times that week, alternating between guilt trips and angry lectures. She's your sister. You know she's going through a lot, he said, like that excused everything. My answer was the same each time. Dad, she went through my trust account like it was hers. She lied. Actions have consequences. The more I repeated it, the lighter I felt. My sister sent a long text about how I'd humiliated her and destroyed her relationship with her fiancé. I didn't reply. She wanted a reaction, and I wasn't going to give her one. My boundary wasn't up for debate. Over the next month, she moved out of the apartment. I didn't ask where she went. The new lease was in my name only, and I listed it with a property manager the same week. The rent covers my mortgage on another investment property now. Funny how quickly things improve when you stop letting someone drain you. The silence from my parents was strange at first, but also peaceful. No surprise requests for money. no guilt-laced phone calls, no fake family emergencies that somehow always translated into me writing a check. My phone stopped being a source of dread. I started noticing other changes too. I slept better. My workouts felt stronger. I even booked a trip for myself, not to bail someone out, not to attend some urgent family thing, but just because I wanted to go. For the first time in years, my money and my time were my own. About 2 months later, I got an email from someone I didn't expect. My sister's ex-fiancé. The subject line was just, "Thank you." In the message, he explained that breaking up with her had been the best decision he'd made in years. He discovered she was hiding debt, lying about expenses, and planning to use his savings for emergencies that were really just impulsive purchases. He said my decision to pull the financial plug had opened his eyes before things got worse. I read it twice, then leaned back in my chair. It wasn't about revenge or payback anymore. It was about knowing I'd done the right thing, even when the entire family told me I was wrong. I can't pretend it doesn't hurt that my dad still takes her side or that my mom quietly avoids the topic altogether, but I've stopped chasing approval from people who benefit from my silence. If they want to see me as selfish for protecting myself, fine. I'll be selfish and free. Now, when I think about that morning, her shouting on my doorstep, my hand steady on the doorframe, I don't feel guilt. I feel clarity. It was the day I finally chose myself over the never-ending role they'd written for me. And if that makes me the villain in their story, I can live with that. Because in mine, it's the day I finally became the main character.